Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the fourth training session in our series for editors using a Trinity-supported Drupal website. The topic we will be covering in this session is events and how they can be added to your website. I'm Andy Smith, a member of the Trinity web support team, and I'm joined by Alex Verhoeven, my colleague on the Trinity support team, and David White, senior manager for Duke Web Services. Also here on the call are members from Trinity Communications, including Assistant Director Riley Phillips. I think this talk will be primarily technical so I don't know if the comms team will have an opportunity to chime in, but they are here, so we're glad to have them. All right. So our agenda, we're gonna start with an introduction to the Duke event calendar, what that system is for, who can add events to, and who can add events to it. We're going to discuss how to get administrative access to the Duke event calendar for your department or group. We'll look at how events are added to your site from that system. And then we'll also look at a method for adding an event to your site without going through the Duke event calendar. We'll also look at best practices for dealing with events that have been canceled. And we'll also look at a few resources that are available for getting help. And I think we'll have time for some questions at the end. So if you're not familiar with this service, the Duke Event Calendar is Duke's dynamic and comprehensive listing of campus events, including lectures, conferences, performing arts, exhibitions, culture activities, all of which are held on campus and or sponsored by Duke departments, units, or groups. Visitors to the Duke Event Calendar can search by date, by topic, by type of event, and by group. Now, technically, anyone with a net ID can add an event to the Duke Event Calendar, but only those added by a group's administrator are automatically approved and immediately visible on the calendar. In addition to providing a mechanism for downloading events to most personal calendars, events in the calendar can be exported and then imported into a department's website, which we'll look at here in a minute. So if you're not sure who the administrators are for your department or group, you can send an email to calendaring, that's calendaring at duke.edu to get this information. And if you yourself need to become an administrator for your department or group, you can submit the request an account form. I've got the link to this form in the slide, which we'll share after this presentation. But that link can also be found in the footer on the Duke Event Calendar website. Now, while Trinity's web support, our group, doesn't maintain or manage the Duke Event Calendar, we can help troubleshoot issues, particularly those related to the import process to department websites. So each Drupal site that we support makes use of a module called feeds. This module provides a mechanism for importing content from external sources, including the Duke Event Calendar. If your site is configured to import events from the Duke Event Calendar, any event that an administrator for your department or group will be imported to your site. When an event is edited in the Duke Event Calendar, that update will also be imported and adopted by the department's site during subsequent import. Similarly, any event for which your department or group is a co-sponsor will be imported to your site. This import process occurs once a day, but site editors can run an import if they wish to get a new event or changes to an existing event onto their site before this automated process runs. Typically runs sometime in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 a.m., sometimes a little later in the morning. We'll look at that import process here in a second and how site editors can kick off that process. And if you see an event on the Duke Event Calendar that is not on your site, but you think it should be, your options are to request that your department or group be added as a co-sponsor, or you can add that event directly to your site using the event local content type. That's something we'll also look at here in a minute, and also go over some reasons why that might be an appropriate course of action. So just to quickly talk about that reasoning, so, that ability to add events directly to your site by bypassing the Duke event calendar. Occasionally it does make sense to bypass the Duke event calendar by adding an event directly to your site using that event local content type that I mentioned. For example, you may learn about a speaker coming to present at UNC or state, and you want to let your site visitors know about this event. Since that event wouldn't be present in the Duke event calendar, you can use this event local content type to add it directly to your site. Any such event appears visually indistinct from an imported event on your site and would display in any event views along with events imported from the Duke event calendar. And again, we'll look at how you go about using that event local content type here in a minute. So let's just quickly talk about canceled events, which happens from time to time. When an event is canceled, the best practice is to let your audience know by updating the event rather than deleting or unpublishing it. If someone has seen an event on your website and they're interested in attending that event, but it's been canceled, by flagging it or indicating it that it's been canceled rather than just removing it from your site, they will be able to see on your site that, hey, this event has been canceled rather than wondering why it just disappeared. So it's important to note that if you delete an event from the event calendar after it has been imported to your site, that event will remain on your site with no indication that it's been canceled. Just as a side note, if an event's details change after it has been imported to your site, you should edit that event in the Duke event calendar rather than just creating a new event with the correct details. Because if you delete an event from the Duke event calendar and recreate it with a new date, you'll end up with two events on your site, perhaps with the same name, but with different dates or different details. So it's always good to go back to the source and edit that event so that those changes get imported to your site. So to indicate that an event has been canceled in the Duke event calendar, you can change the event's status to canceled, and this flag will be imported to your department site. For events that you've added directly to your site that you want to indicate have been canceled, there's an option to enable a canceled flag when editing that event. In both cases, whether it comes from the Duke event calendar, it's been flagged as canceled, or whether it's a locally added event, the word canceled is added to the event title and it shows up in big red letters on your site to let your users know. All right, so let's go over a few demos. We're going to look at running an event import. We're going to add an event directly to thereby bypassing the Duke event calendar. We'll look at categorizing an event. Not a lot of sites use this feature, but you could, for example, show events targeted towards undergraduate students on your undergraduate landing page if you have an undergraduate landing page. So yeah, we'll look at that. I think the example I've queued up is flagging an event as an undergraduate event. We'll also indicate that an event has been canceled, and we'll do that. I'll do that to the locally added event, just so I don't have to go into the event calendar and flag something as canceled. All right, so I'm just going to switch over to a different tab here where I'm logged in as a site editor. I think I should still be logged in. All right, so this particular site has been configured to have an events showing up on the front page. It also has an events page itself. That's really neither here nor there. We're here to look at how to run an event import. So I mentioned earlier that we're using a module called feeds. So to find the event importer, you would just hover over content and go into feeds. And I know there's a event in this particular feed that hasn't been imported yet, so I'm going to choose this particular feed to import. So we can do this one of two ways. I can either go ahead and click the import button here, or I can click the feed itself and then click the import button. Either way, I'll get prompted. Are you sure you want to run this import? Just go ahead and click the import again, and we'll see this run. And we get a little message here that says, okay, this has been, this event ran and it created one event imported. So now if I go back to my events page, we'll see that, okay, here's that new event that was added that wasn't here before. Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward. Again, content feeds, you choose the event that you want to import and either click import from the operations tab or the operations column or go into the individual event and click the import. So let's go ahead and create an event locally. Let's say I know about an event that's happening um, up the road at uh, my animal hospital or or whatever. I'll use a different example. Let's say I know of an event that's happening uh, over at State, and we want to let our audience know about this event. So in this case, I would go to Content, Add Content, and select Event Local. Local meaning we're adding this directly locally to this site. We're not importing it from elsewhere. We've got a little, a link to our documentation on how to use this content type and how to create an event. If you're new to the process, but I'm going to go ahead here and say, let's give an event title, great speaker coming to UNC. I know there's probably better languages here. Here's that cancel flag I mentioned, but we'll look at that in a second. We can give it an image. We can select one from our media library, or we can add a new image. I'm going to go ahead and just select this image of Bill Murray. He's going to be the speaker for this event. We can give the event. We need to give the event a description. We can give the speakers. I'm say Bill Murray. Now we have to give the event a date. All right, so I'm just going to say this is going to be happening on June 1st at, we'll say noon, and an end date. He's only going to be speaking for an hour. We can add a link for more information. So if UNC has a page about this, you can add a URL that will show up on the page when someone's viewing this event for more information. If there's a webcast URL, you can add a webcast. If this is going to be on Zoom, for example, you can add the webcast URL here or YouTube, what have you. We have a place for additional links. If you wanted to add a link to Bill's resume, you could add the web address to his resume here, and then you can put in Bill's resume for the link text. We can add location. So we'll say this is at, let's see, the old well. And then if there's a link, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's probably a link to where the old well actually is. Contact. I'm going to put myself here, and here's the contact. I'll skip my phone for now. We can say, who the sponsor is. If there's a sponsor for this local event, we can add co-sponsors, and then we can add, a series. So undergraduate event, we could say this is an undergraduate event. But for now, I'm just going to say, okay, we got everything we want. We got the title, the image, the description, who the speaker or speakers is. You can, there's a place with several different speakers here. Got the date. Got a little link for more information. Got the location for where this is happening. I've got my contact information here. And when I click save, we're going to see this event and how it appears on your website. You ostensibly you'd have a more detailed description here. And then once I go back to my events page, it's going to show up here along with all of the other events, just the same way as all the other imported events. So that's yeah, and that's the again the preferred method is to add these events to the Duke event calendar. I think I sort of glossed over why that is, and it's really the reason being it's just a way to maximize and it can really uh, get more eyes on your event, get a target, get a bigger audience because the Duke event calendar is sort of the system of record for events at Duke. All right, let's look at how we want to categorize an event. As I mentioned earlier, on the undergraduate landing page for this Stuff and Things site, I've added this little event section down here where events are shown that are categorized as an undergraduate event. So let's say I wanted to add um, one of my new events, or let's say I want to add this event about my brother's keeper as an undergraduate event. To do so, we would edit this imported event. And on the local data tab, we've got this local series. So I'm just going to choose undergraduate event. This is locally assigned, not imported from the Duke event calendar. And I'll click save. And now when I go back to my undergraduate landing page, where I had 3 events initially, I now have this additional My Brother's Keeper event along with the 3 that were already there. So I think, one thing to be careful of if you do have categorized events in this way is that over time, as these events happen, they'll start dropping off, which is, why we only saw 3 here initially. So it's something that, if you do have an area on a page with categorized events, it's something you just need to be wary of and keep up to date. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in a position where you've got an events section on a given page, but there's no events there because no one's gone in and taken the time to categorize events to show up on that particular place. So the last demo I want to just quickly go over is indicating that an event has been canceled. Now let's say that, this Bill has decided I can't speak at he's not going to be coming after all. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit this event that I added, and I'm going to check this canceled box. And now when I click save, we can see here it's now the event's still showing on my site. It says canceled, and if I go into that specific event, it's right there, right up in front. It says canceled. This is not happening. And again, the reasoning being, if someone has come to your site a week ago or 2 weeks ago and seen this event and gets all excited to see, to attend this event, and if you just remove it from the site, they won't know what, is this still happening? Should I show up? Should I not? Whereas by flagging something as canceled rather than just deleting it or unpublishing it, you'll give your users an opportunity to understand why, that, oh, okay, this isn't happening anymore. All right, so let's move on to some resources for getting some help. So if you have questions about using the Duke event calendar, that site has an extensive help section that should answer most any topic that arises. It's just calendar.duke.edu/help. Got the URL on the slide there. Um, as mentioned earlier, you can also email calendaring@duke.edu if you can't find the answer to your question in their documentation. For questions about which events are being imported to your site, for example, which events by which sponsors are being imported my events, because we can set up a feed for a department site that pulls in that group's events, but also any number of groups. So I know in some situations site has both physics and biology and chemistry events pulled in their site. I don't think that's a real example, but but events can the feed, the importer can be set up to pull in the events from multiple sponsors. Um, so likewise, if you're seeing any issues with that import process, or if an event in the Duke event calendar is not on your site, but you think it should be, you can always reach out to Trinity Web Support at duke.edu as you would with any question about your website. For assistance on planning and putting on an event, there is the event services. I think it's conference and event services group. Now they can assist with with a number of logistics, including audiovisual and technical services, catering services, and registration for larger events. I believe there is a fee for their services, particularly, and there may be uh, there may be a minimum size that you expect an event to be, but we wanted to point that out that this group does exist for help with actually organizing and executing an event. Um, but if you need help with an event venue that you're familiar with, you've got a conference room in your department, but you need some help with audio and visual capabilities or with Zoom. Um, in a situation like that, it's a good idea to contact your department's primary desktop support personnel who can help you figure out how to use the conference, those capabilities in a given venue where you're going to be having your event. So, in conclusion, the Duke Event Calendar can help boost event attendance. That's the primary reason for using that system rather than just adding all your events to your site locally. Typically more eyes are going to see that event on the Duke Event Calendar rather than just on your site. It's just a way to maximize the amount of people who are seeing that event and potentially attending your event. Events for which your department is a sponsor or co-sponsor will be imported to your site. If you're not seeing that, contact Trinity Web Support at duke.edu. If you have questions about the Duke calendar, including who has administrative access for your group, those should be addressed to calendaring@duke.edu. Now, events also, they can be added directly to your site using the event local content type. We went over that, an example why you might want to do that. Another reason might be you don't want to have many eyes on it. You just want to have your target audience know about this event, even if it's just held, right there in your department. And then lastly, indicating that an event has been canceled is preferable to just simply removing that event or deleting it or unpublishing it, just so your audience is aware that that is no longer happening, rather than just wondering why it's no longer visible on the website. So I kind of blew through that. I know there might be some questions, so I'm going to open that up to any questions that you all have. I don't know if I wasn't watching the comments, if there are any questions coming in.
We had one question about how long it takes for a canceled event to reflect as being canceled on the site. And again, that's will happen as soon as the next import runs, or you manually run the import yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, the automated importing of events is once a day, basically. And it usually happens sometime between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., I think. But like, as we mentioned, if you have this event on the Duke event calendar, it's been imported to your site, and you want to flag it as canceled, and you want to make your audience know about this as soon as possible, you can, flag that event as canceled in the Duke event calendar, go to your site and run that import process, and it'll automatically, it'll be there as soon as that import process finishes.
It looks like Wilhelmina has a question for us.
Oh yeah.
Hi, and thank you for this. We just were charged with ensuring that any event that our department co-sponsors shows up on our department's event calendar as on the website, as our department website. So I know the preference is to have it go through the Duke calendar, but if it's we're not the hosting the body, I mean, are there too many, is it possible to add events manually too many times and cause a problem? Like I don't want to.
No, I mean that's certainly an option just to, add events locally to your site for any event. You don't have to use the Duke Event Calendar. The primary reason for using the Duke Event Calendar is, you know, to get more eyes. It basically increases the visibility about that event. Now, if let's say, the Center for this, that, and the other is putting on an event, they're the sponsor of this event, and your department is a co-sponsor, they should, and ostensibly they should be adding your department as a co-sponsor for that event. If that's not happening and they're not responsive and not adding your department as a co-sponsor, then that's certainly a viable reason for just going the route of adding it locally. Just add that event locally. The onus is then on you to keep that up to date. If something about that event changes, the venue, the location, the time, what have you, then you're on the hook to know and make that change to the event that you added. And then there's also then the risk that, okay, event's been added to the Duke event calendar. You've requested to be added as a co-sponsor. It's not happening quickly enough, so you add it locally
Mm,
using that event local content type. But then later, that sponsor then says,
yeah,
"Oh, right, this department is a co-sponsor," and then they
right.
update the event and add you as a co-sponsor, and then all of a sudden you've got that event twice on your web.
Twice. Right. Okay.
Not a big deal. In that case, you would just go in and unpublish the one that you added locally. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
does that answer
Thank
your
you.
question?
No, it does. It does. So I think just moving forward, we'll just ask if they will be putting this on the Duke events calendar, to please ensure that you add us as a co-sponsor.
Bingo. Yes,
That will
exactly.
be
That
that will
is
be an upfront request in addition to our supporting you if you would do that.
that's this yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Do we have any other questions? Anything that we didn't that I was blew through or glossed over? I'll just remind folks again then, if you do see an issue with an event, you have a question down the road, oh wow, I didn't think of this at the time, please always reach out to Trinity Web Support at duke.edu, and if we're not the ones who can answer your question, we'll certainly find the appropriate party to provide assistance in that situation.